because they're not as common. You know, the ones that are common are the nearsighted ones. They're the ones that are squinting at the board. People pick that up. That's an easy one. It's the ones that are very farsighted, because when you're farsighted, the lens inside the eye can flex itself and compensate for it. But unfortunately, if you can imagine the muscles flexing that lens 24/7 at a distance. Whenever you're awake, you're looking far away. It's always flexing a little bit. When
good hunters.
What's that?
Good hunters.
Good hunters. They can see the details flexing to cause very good details at a distance. Up close, as you come closer, the muscles have to contract even more, putting more strain on that lens. But these are the ones that, you know, my kid just, you know, has been complaining of headaches. I don't understand why. Well, think of it as you holding a 20-pound weight with your bicep all the time. Is that thing going to get tired? Sure it is. You know, and where is it, you know, is it really a headache? Well, you have 6 muscles around the eyes. You have muscles inside the eyes. Is that muscle getting strained like a bicep would? Of course it is. And how are you going to feel it? You can't say, well, you know, the muscles in my eyes are fatigued and they're aching. You know, you call it an eye ache, you call it a headache, you call it whatever. And those are the ones, unfortunately, that get missed. So quite often we'll see a kid will get labeled as being, he's a slow learner. He's a slow reader.
They can't see.
They can't see. Get them all the time. And, you know, I love the ones the little ones that I'll see when they come. I see how poor their vision actually is, and you put those glasses on their face, and their eyes just open up, and they look around, and it's like a whole new world. And those are the things that don't get picked up. That's why we really, you know, here in this state, they haven't mandated it yet. They have in several other states that all kids must get their eyes professionally checked before they start kindergarten. In the state of Georgia, where I moved from, they had mandatory hearing and vision checks before there was a state form that you had to have filled out by a professional, and so that meant, you know, that the kids have a better shot. You know,
sure.
You know, unfortunately, I hate seeing these ones that, you know, it's 4th, 5th grade, and this is the first time you know, he's been struggling for years. Maybe it's time to get it checked out. And, well, great, but we could have done a lot better. He could have been he shouldn't have been struggling all those years.
Didn't have to.
Didn't have to. You know, and parents quite often don't know about it. So it's good, you know, it's good at least preventative to see. You know, it's not something you have to have done every single year, but if you at least get it done before they start school, let's get it done.
So you grab that 4.5, 5-year-old, you go through the process once. If everything looks okay, you don't have to worry about it for a while. But I got you. But a lot of people don't do it at all.
You see, in the eye itself, the retina is still growing due to visual stimulus. So when you're born, your retina is not perfectly compacted. So
babies can't see worth a darn.
Babies can't see worth a darn. They can't. And it's because they haven't had any visual stimulus at this point. So the retina starts off like an old-fashioned TV where you can see all the grains in it. So it's very loose. And with the good, sharp visual stimulus, the retina is like, oh, you know, I've got this projected on here, and I need to tighten up to be able to see that detail. So it creates more and more retinal cells. They compact, they get tighter and tighter, so you can get that fine detail lines.
And so does a baby, as the eye develops, is it pliable enough that perhaps someone who grows up in Arizona, where they're looking at a lot of sunlight, that their eye might develop differently, maybe than someone who grows up in Seattle, where they're not getting as much sunlight?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
And a lot of it's more kind of a detail-oriented thing, you know. Unfortunately, the retina basically stops development about the age of 7. 7's when it's whatever it's at 7, it's pretty much set. There's not a whole lot of changing that can be done. So that's why you see periodically a kid with a lazy eye. You know, there's the lazy eye is kind of a loose term for many different things. It could be a weak muscle that causes the eye to turn. It could just be a kid that's very farsighted in one eye. That could also be considered a lazy eye.
So they're compensating.
So they're compensating for it. That's right. And that retina up until age of 7 can still be, you know, it can adapt. So you can still get it to compact down. So if you get glasses on a child early enough and you're giving them that eye the visual stimulus that it needs, the retina can still become developed. Now, if you don't do it, something that's called amblyopia. Amblyopia just means that the retina is not compacted enough to make out the sharp details.
Okay.
And, you know, an amblyopic child will never see better than that if it's, you know, they're much older because it can't make it better. But earlier on, while the retina is still pliable, you can put glasses on them and you can get rid of the amblyopia by allowing it to continue to compact.
So that preschool check is really important.
Preschool check's very important.
And you don't, whether you think your kid has a concern or not,
Exactly.
you probably ought to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you don't know.
Well, and
I
they can't
had
read.
mom cry in my exam room.
Well,
I didn't know he couldn't see. I was like, I know.
Well, and they
it's
can't
okay.
read, and they can't read, and they can't explain it to you,
Right.
and they don't know the difference.
Right.
You know what it reminds
And
me?
people say with an eye exam, well, you know, they can't read the letters. You know, why should I bring them in? It's not going to help. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, the technology these days. I have a machine next door that can check your prescription without you saying a word.
Right.
It's got two lasers that focus on the curvature of the cornea.
Mm-hmm.
It focuses on the length of the eyeball, and it tells me what your prescription is without you being able to talk.
Right. I got you. Yeah, and I bet you people wouldn't know that.
Right.
No, that makes sense. Okay, so if we learned one thing today, it's get that 4-year-old checked.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.